So a college life is incomplete without discussing your a business plan with your friends over a tea stall. With that in mind, let's start our first episode of Startup Sunday with our guest, Miss Ankita Mandyan. So, ma'am, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, Nihal. Thank you. So, about myself, I have been working with in the startup ecosystem industry past 2.5 years now, and predominantly I work in the startup investment space. But I have also developed and implemented incubation and acceleration programs. So, I have played a key role in establishing operational activities in in the Chhattisgarh state government, that is 36 INC.
So, every one of us wants to be on an entrepreneur at some point of time in life. So, what do you think as to discussion top point of discussion today is from idea to incubator? What do you think? How do you think one should frame his or her idea in order to reach to the incubator? Or
I do agree that when we are in college, since we are studying so many new things, we get so many ideas in our mind, and we feel like we maybe we want to test that, and that is a good sign. And how about turning this idea? Basically, I consider it as a project. So what you do in a project, you study your project, you see three main things that are involved with your project. The first is your idea that you want to do, probably the mission that you want to achieve. The second thing that comes is the market, wherein you test your idea. You actually build a minimum viable product, take it to customers, understand the consumer experience, understand if the customer is preferring your product, if they really believe that it is an innovative solution to an existing problem, or it might be just a disruptive innovation. So, and then comes competition. So if your idea is like is if your project gets successful, that is when you think of building it up into a startup idea, maybe earnings through it, and maybe you yourself turning into an entrepreneur. So that is what I believe an idea or a project can turn into a startup.
let's suppose if a student he or she has an idea and wants to start.
Mhm.
So people just say prepare a good pitch for it first and then uh, uh, present it to people to incubator at your college or some other competitions. So how what do you
Mhm.
think is importance of pitching in the whole journey? Preparing a better pitch and knowing what
See,
you
uh,
have planned or
See, according to me, and about the experiences that I have seen and I have experienced myself, I can vouch that pitching is similar to presentation. Like if you are in a corporate, you would be pitching for a particular project. And in your case, you are pitching your startup. So it is exactly the same things come into play. And when it comes to pitching to an incubator or an investor or participating in various pitching competitions, it is all about boosting your confidence and looking for customers feedback. They are actually your customers. Maybe you have some idea and you're pitching in an event, in a presentation, in a pitching event, and I'm there, and maybe I am influenced by your product, and I am one of your what if I turn one of your consumers? So we always go with that intention. And when you talk about pitch, it is basically about your idea of disrupting the market, how you look at your competitors and how you build your unique selling proposition, and how you have build your traction, and what financials are you projecting. So this is what encompasses your idea, your vision, and your the strength of the team gives it a broad scope to the viewers and the customers and builds trust. So I think there is that space where pitch matters,
and
and one should prepare for it.
as you have said earlier that MVP is required, minimum
Yes,
viable
yes.
product is required for uh, for starting. So I have an idea, and there's an MVP. After that, I pitched it to people. So from idea to MVP, how can I reach? What's what should be my mindset to prepare an MVP? Everyone has a vision for their product. That can be an MVP for sure. So, for example, I have tried a startup called Cloud Closet. We were aiming for dress rental platform. So we for an
Okay.
MVP we tried, me and two of my teammates, we tried to build a simple e-commerce site where we have listed the dresses from one college students of one college, and we were trying to sell it or present it for rent to our college students. So is does that counts for an MVP or not?
Uh, Nihal, your voice broke in between, but what I understood is
Yeah.
that you had a startup idea. You build an e-commerce website for renting of
Yeah,
dresses, and the
that's
basic
right.
idea is that maybe the dresses that somebody wore in your college is being rented out to somebody else's
No, no.
college.
The dresses that were wore in somebody else college were rented in my college.
Okay.
Okay, for events like
So
farewell
it is
and
basically about renting dresses through
yeah,
an e-commerce
yeah,
website, right? So in that case, see, when I talk about minimum viable, so let us first address your first question about transition from an idea phase to an
yeah,
MVP stage. So what happens is, for example, you are building an e-commerce website. So for building the website, first of all, you will draw out a wireframe for it. So let us take it as your first step to the MVP. This is
yeah,
where your idea, which is your imagination, turns into paper. And then when you turn it into a product that other people can see it, for example, a website, which other people can see it, so that turns into MVP. Now, the basic prototype, the minimum thing that you can show to people, which can, I mean, introduce your idea to people, will become your MVP. Now, it is not necessary for an MVP to be like sold. So you should always have this thing that MVP is the raw thing that you are presenting to the customers. You build on it, and then finally you get your final product, and then you go for product
for
updates.
example, if I brought a dress from other college and just sold it to
Okay.
someone in my college, so would that without any website or any other stuff would be considered as an MVP, as I have made something out of it, and it was just like a proof of concept for my idea that people are willing to rent a dress or something like that.
Okay. Nehal, see, proof of concept comes in between the MVP. So first there's your idea, then you do the proof of concept, and with the proof of concept, the testimonials that you receive from your customers, you build a minimum viable product.
Yeah.
So it is how the passage of an idea to MVP goes.
So with that, when should one, at what stage, means I am putting my effort to
Mhm.
build something. At what stage one should seek for an incubation?
So I believe it is not necessary to like think that you have to go incubation. It is upon the need of the startup. So for example, you have a minimum viable product developed. So now you have like customer testimonials of around, you have received hundreds of feedbacks, and now you are looking forward to expand, maybe do 500 to 1000 customers in a year. You are looking forward to I mean, you are facing some issues in, say, getting more customers. You are facing issues in identifying your targeted audience, or maybe you are facing issues in um, making your product technology sound. So basis on your need, you actually see whether you need an incubator or not. So it is not a necessity, but it is a process that you take so that you can it is like grooming your startup well, I must
So,
say.
so how do we select a proper means mentor or an incubator for our ideas that will help us in future? For example, if
Okay.
somebody is having a technological product, so he just can't go
Hmm.
for an uh,
Right.
agriculture based incubator or mentors who have experience in that field. So how do choosing people, those who are mentoring us and providing us some resources, uh, should be done, and what's its importance?
I'm glad that you brought this question up, Nihal. So it is very important for a startup to choose the right incubator or mentor, as you say. And now, while choosing now in India, there are not many, but few incubators have come, and there are good incubators as well. So incubators are different types. Few incubators are concentrated about incubation programs. Few are concentrated about follow-on investments. Few are like mentoring and kind of boot camp incubators. So it depends. And then there are sectoral incubators as well. You mentioned about agriculture and technology. But at some times now, since technology has played a key role in our lives, so every industry that is coming with a suffix of agri-tech, you see, health tech,
Yeah.
healthcare tech, everything is coming with tech, because you, for everything, you either need a website or mobile app as a gateway to your customers. So wherein technology plays a key role, but then you have to choose whether you need technological help or you need help in some other area. If you need core help in agriculture, for you need contacts in agriculture, you need contacts in agricultural institutes, you need contacts of different database of farmers that are working, or maybe you have to connect to a society when there are more, then you should focus on agricultural uh, focused incubators. So that is how you select an incubator. And when I come to mentors, it actually is also case to case basis. It depends if you want like hand holding support, or you want support like whenever you face a problem, you want somebody to advise you, or if you like a mentor who gives you milestones so that you can achieve your mission. So it totally depends on the way the startup wants
Okay,
to
so how
interact
do
with
we search
mentors.
for those mentors? Means I'm a student and I am at my college campus, and the only time I go out is
Hmm.
some at some events where I meet people who are mentors in some startups, or I search for them on LinkedIn. So how do I search them and make them agree to mentor me, or a student can contact them for mentoring and other purposes?
So first of all, we have to rebuild this question that a student who needs mentor can find it in college, but a student entrepreneur or a startup who needs, as you rightly mentioned, you can find it on LinkedIn, and that is one of the reasons startups prefer to join incubators. It is because they have a large mentor network which they can choose a mentor from. Or maybe there are so many connects, you get passes of so many startup communities, startup events, that you eventually find and a mentor. Sometimes you might have also heard that startups find co-founders and team hires during these events, because they meet so many people. It's like if you are in a room, or if you're like just building your idea and you are not in an incubator, the first disadvantage that comes is the market linkages and the networks. So you just meet 10 people in a day, but when you have an incubator network, then you meet around 100 people, say. So it is like it might sound like an exaggeration, but the scale is like that. So you meet a lot of people in incubator. That is how you actually find a lot of mentors. And then when you have discussion with mentors, they understand, they show interest in your startup, and then there is some synergy that you find, that the mentor can help you, the mentor can provide you network, the mentor can provide you customers, the mentor can advise you on strategy. You feel that yes, this is the type of the mentor that I need, that my startup needs, you go ahead with them. So it is basically case to case basis, and there's no one fits all strategy to it.
Okay, so for students, entrepreneurs in general, what should be the roadmap?
Yeah.
For example, I'm in second year of my engineering, so
Okay.
obviously there is a family pressure in normal middle class Indian families that you have to get a job after fourth year or after completing your graduation. So what should be
Mhm.
the roadmap for a student? For example, if I start in second year, so 2 years, what should be my roadmap so that I can uh, just make people believe in me, or I am at a stage where people can just trust me, that I've started something, and uh, means what stage I can start earning something from an I startup, or so, or should give a should get a validation in sense. I think the
Okay.
question is not
So
clear.
no, no, it is clear.
Yeah,
I get
I
it.
just
You
want a
basically are,
roadmap that
yeah, roadmap
yeah,
for a student entrepreneur. How
yeah,
should the journey be? So of course it should be planned. If you, so why I'm saying plan, because you mentioned out that if you belong to a middle class family, so yes, you should have the risk capacity, because you are not taking up
yeah,
job and you are investing your own money. So you should, and about people believing you, I think that's not the right way to look at it. You should have self belief in yourself that whether the project works or not, you are going to give your 100% in it. And the third thing that comes into play is you do not treat it as a startup idea beginning, because I have seen a lot of people getting demotivated when they say my startup idea didn't work. It is basically your project. Consider it as a project, and if you're starting in the first year, first develop MVP, test within your college if college is your target audience or whatever is. If you find like 100 customers in a month, then you are a success. You can feel the success, and then probably you can target, okay, if I can get 100 customers in a month, I should probably be trying for say 1000 or 1200 customers a year. And if I do that, maybe then you can consider building a team on it, and then you improve your product more, and then maybe you feel the need that you want more network, you want to grow this thing, you want to earn more out of it, because you already see that the expenses that you're bearing are already being covered by I mean say 30% being covered by the revenue that you're getting.
yeah.
So if that is the case, you probably should look forward to enrolling, should probably start experimenting with your college incubator if you have, if you think that is the incubator that is the right fit for you. And if it is not, you can probably join one on the basis that you see that yes, this is the incubator I'm looking forward to expand in the geography, basis on what kind of incubator you are looking forward to, and then you experiment it further. But if you are not sure of your idea, if you think that your project is not going success, it is barely having customers like 50 a month or say 20 a month, and you do not see that traction coming into your startup, probably you should revamp your whole idea, maybe do a 360-degree pivot to your idea and then test it that way. And once you are very sure of your idea, you can kickstart it.
So
So it depends, and risk capacity is the main thing. If it is
risk capacity and self belief.
yes, exactly.
Yes. So, as let's imagine that someone has developed an MVP, and is is at a stage that he can go to an incubator, or anywhere where
Hmm.
people will show interest in his or her startup. So
Mhm.
what does incubator ask for return, and how does entrepreneurs out there should know that this is what this incubator wants in return, and will that be valuable for me, my startup, the people who are working for me? So please explain this point.
Okay. So different startups have different strategies to cater to startups. So, I mean, if it is just for the purpose of knowing how everything works, how incubator works, how incubator may be able to help the startup can schedule a meeting with any of these managers and representatives and can have a word with them. But when a startup looks for like complete support from the incubators generally either go with either have program based, like either they have incubation program which goes from around 6 months to 12 months. It is for the people who are at the MVP stage, as you mentioned, like they do not have much traction, they just have around 500 to 800 customers as of now, then you register for an incubation program. But when you are looking for a growth scale, like you want to reach from say lakh to a crore revenue in a month, then you join the acceleration programs that incubators offer. Other times, if you want to look at a complete incubation, it is generally sweat equity which incubators look for, and it is between, I mean, majorly it is 5%, but you can consider it with
The please can you repeat the equity point, as the connection was lost at that time.
okay.
Okay.
Okay,
5%
so
equity
uh,
is what.
yeah, so basically incubators, major of the incubators go for 5% equity. Some incubators also take around 2 to 3% depending upon the support they give. And if you take more of their supports, depends, it can range between 5 to 7% of equity. And then few incubators have this included in the co-working space trend if they take co-working as well, because nowadays incubators give this because
Yeah.
there's more of networking for startups. So if you take this, either you give rent separately or you have this equity arrangement with them
So
as well.
this
So it completely depends upon incubator to incubator.
so this equity is for lifetime or for some time period, for lifetime of the startup, or so for
So
some particular time period.
So Nihal, as I mentioned that there's incubation agreement, so it varies from as I mentioned from 3 to 12 months. So it is for that particular period. So as soon as the agreement ends, the equity can be dissolved. So it is sweat equity is just for the incubation purpose, because and I have been listening this debate about sweat equity, if startups should give sweat equity to incubators, if they should go ahead with it. It is because it is not just an advantage for startups, but it is about incubators who will be putting their efforts into you. And when as an incubator you I have to recommend a particular startup, it comes with the brand of the incubator. So it is where the role of incubator sweat equity comes. It is like you are associated with the incubator.
Okay.
So that
Uh,
helps the
so
startups as well.
so as my audience here is almost everybody is college student, and I am targeting college students only. So please explain the
Mhm.
terms equity, and sweat equity differently, and how what it is actually, for a in layman terms, so that people can understand it.
Okay. So equity, I mean, if you have heard about this stock market and stuff, you would have heard about shares.
Yeah.
So shares, basically equity is a part of the uh, shared capital that you have. So the total amount of shares that you allot to a person comes as the equity that I belong. It is that part. And when I say sweat equity, it is what you give to incubation. It is the term sweat. So I mean, when you specifically mention that it is for incubation, that's generally sweat equity. But when you go for investment, it is like shares equity. So it is like that. But in general terms, if we speak about equity, it is shares generally considered. Now, if I go deep into shares, then there's equity, then there's like CCPS,
we'll
and
come to that and
yeah, it's
sometime.
a long
So
topic entirely. So, just for if students have to understand it, they can visualize it that if you are going for an incubation, it is generally sweat incubation equity.
and we have discussed that what incubators expect from the startups, and what does entrepreneurs should expect from incubator, and what should be the exit strategy that yeah, I am successfully exiting this incubator if I have
Mhm,
achieved this. And of course,
mhm.
investment is a part, but it should not, according to me, it should not be the prime goal of someone to get investment and exit to from the incubator or something like that.
So Nihal, like you currently asked me three questions. The first being about the exit strategy of a startup entrepreneur from an incubator, and next about investment, right?
Yeah.
So two
Should
questions basically.
second question is exactly that. Should we just focus on investment, or there should be something else that we focus on
Okay,
while
okay,
exiting an incubator?
okay. So a startup, a student entrepreneur expects like mentoring, co-working seats, and network linkages, and you can expect support from the entire team in your like if you get into an incubator and suppose there are, for example, let's say there are 20 startups. Now every 20 startup has around say 2 to 3 minimum team size, right? And
Yeah.
your product gets, and if you are selling, for example, a beauty product, or as you sell as you mentioned about an example of e-commerce, rental
Yeah.
dresses. So if you promote that within the incubator, you already have around 20 into 360 customers which you can convert, right? So that is the role in which incubators help startups since the beginning of their agreement. Second point is the exit strategy from an incubator. So there's no particular exit point for a startup from an incubator. Yes, the agreement ends, but once you make those connections, once you make those linkages, you will need that again and again. So you will, if you have build a connect with me, you are regularly engaging with me regarding support, you can anyways text, Ankita, can you please help me promote this particular event, or please can you just suggest me this. So it is a everlasting connection that you build with an incubator. So it is perhaps the agreement gets end, but yes, you, if you want to
But
avail more services, if you want to have the co-working space, you have to pay the fees or whatever it is, you have to pay the rent. But otherwise there's no particular I mean
endpoint.
exit from the incubator. Yes, there's no end point. And regarding investment, so yes, you rightly mentioned that the startup should not look for, like, if you are getting into an incubation, you should probably be looking for an investment. No, this is the wrong approach to getting into an incubator. But you should always have this, that the incubator has some investment links, has an investment network, because if you're looking forward to raise money, the incubator can help you directly, or if not, if the incubator does not invest directly, it can perhaps connect you with its investor network, the various networks that has built up over time. And regarding investments, if you are particularly looking for investments in your startup and you want to join them, then probably you should focus on such incubators. For example, like 100x.vc, it invests and helps startups as well. Then there's Let's Venture. So you should probably look into such incubators wherein they invest money in you as well, and then they give you incubation support as well.
Yeah. So we have discussed the roadmap for students, and now if somebody is running a successful startup, uh, and he has to I mean what's the startup life cycle, so that students can understand it? So for example, if we take example of Binny Bansal, they have started Flipkart and then
Mm-hmm.
sold it to Walmart, and then they exited from it, and now they are
Mm-hmm.
doing the other stuff that they want to do.
Yes,
So
yes.
what's the startup life cycle, and how a student can understand that?
So, have you heard of product life cycle?
Uh,
How it
Not
moves
precisely.
is like, okay. So it is like this. So it is where you start your project and then you start building your product, and this is where your startup starts getting traction, and slowly you reach to a point wherein you have like raised series C, say, and you are looking forward either for an IPO, or you are looking forward to getting acquired, or like you mentioned about Walmart acquired the startup Flipkart. So it depends upon what, and if you do not, the startup gets declining. So either you have to like again revamp and build, improve your solution. So the life cycle of a startup goes in exactly the same way as the product life cycle goes. So it is like, once you reach the peak point, you either look for new innovation that you can bring up, and then about if you are looking forward to exit your startup, you can probably adjust it within the team, or if you want to just wind up the startup as such, I mean, then you can even choose to, as I mentioned, you can have uh, get it acquired or something, or you can look for those options.
Yeah. And as you work closely with the investment part, so what are the main seed investment, Series A investment, Series B investment? What are these terms, and do this mean? And
Okay.
Yes,
So okay, so I would start with the basic term, which is bootstrap.
bootstrap. Yeah.
So bootstrap, yes. So when we say bootstrap startups, they are those which are being funded by either themselves, their family, or friends. So it is very good if they are bootstrap, because then it gives the investor, or I mean the confidence that yes, your family and friends have confidence in your startup. And believe me, it is toughest part to sell products to your family and relatives. It is the toughest part. So once you have the investors have confidence in it, and then you look for seed round. It is for it is majorly for developing the product, hiring team, and for say marketing the product, making it a brand. So for this you can raise seed round, and seed round is typically ranges from around 5 lakh to a crore. So it is that amount. It
And
can
is this
even be extended
the
to
amount of investment or valuation? Means 5 lakh or
amount of
10 lakh?
investment. Yes, yes. So it depends upon, I mean, the investment range depends from around lakh to say maximum 3 crore, I believe. So it is in within this range. Mostly it is in the range of 5 lakhs to 1 crore. Then once you are done with the seed round, within 12 to 18 months, you look for a pre-series round, which is the bridge round to series A. So this is a round wherein you can either go for like around 75 lakhs to like 5 crores. Matlab it depends. The series round is bigger. So you can break it into tranches, and you can like just follow on the series, and it keeps building. So then after this range, it depends upon the last amount you raised. So it keeps building on that. But the initial start begins from like around 5 lakh to 2.5 1 crore, 2.5 crores.
And since we are discussing
And then
investments, since we are discussing investments, I want to make my viewers clear about what's an investment and what is valuation. So please give a short answer about this confusion, or that people are just confused about
okay.
what's a valuation and what is investment, or what is the money invested in the startup.
Okay. So when we say when we say investment, it is about what I invested and at what valuation did I invest. So investment comes here, and here are your two questions about what investment have I made and at what valuation I have made. When I come to what investment I have made, it is based on what the startup's ask is. Ask means ki what the startup is looking to raise. For example, a startup is raising 2 crores. Okay. And you are a budding investor and you are ready to invest, for example, 10 lakhs. All right.
Yeah.
So that is the amount you are going to put. And the startup says that yes, I am raising 2 crore at 10 crore valuation, for an example. Okay.
20%.
So yes, so now what I'm saying is, now you would have ki, okay, this is 2 crores and and the startup is raising at 10 crore valuation. The point comes is this 10 crore valuation applicable to you, or this is the valuation after I put my money?
Okay.
Which is what we say is pre-money valuation and post-money valuation. So what I mentioned was pre-money valuation, 10 crore. Okay.
Yeah.
The startup clarifies it. I did not clarify because I wanted to explain it to you and your viewers. Okay. So now specifically, I would say that I am looking forward to raise 2 crore at a pre-money valuation of 10 crore. Now, once the startup raises, it would say that I have raised 2 crore and now my valuation is 12 crore. So this is how valuation works.
Okay. Since you are
I hope it is. Valuation is exactly what the in totality, what is the value of the company.
yeah.
So valuation is that thing, that if I want to buy out your entire company, how much money will I have to pay? So now I'll say I'll have to pay 12 crore to completely buy the company.
Okay.
It is that.
And actual money invested is 2 crore, and you have the company is functioning on it. Is it like that?
Yes. And when you say how much you have invested, you can always decide your amount to invest, and you can calculate your percentage, how much you, like we say the equity percentage, you can calculate that by the money you have invested divided by the valuation,
Okay.
post money valuation.
So since you are in the startup ecosystem for more than 3 years, so you have obviously you might have seen some success stories, some failure stories. So would you like to discuss
Yes.
one of those? Yeah.
Yes, surely. So in my work at 36 INC, there was this company who was started off in a hostel room or dome room.
Yeah.
And I must say the company's name is Spinology, and I have personally seen the cycle of this company since I was working in the incubator. So this company started really small, started a YouTube channel, and it was just out of an activity to bring financial literacy in India.
Yeah.
And slowly this team has grown, and now it is clocking a revenue of in crores, like around 5 crores, and has a team of around 31 to 50 employees. So, and has more than 1 million subscribers on YouTube. So I have seen the cycle of growth. So it's been like more than a 3 to 4 year journey now. Started in, I guess, 2015 or 16. I mean, it was an idea before, and then it gradually picked up.
So in as you have said, it was a journey of more than 3 or 4 years. So students are
Yes.
generally very impatient about these things, that they want profit right now, and they just want the money flow right there. So what you have to say about that?
Impatience is not the way to move forward. You have to be patient. If I mean, you can literally, if you are really impatient, you can really think of it as growing as a child, because a child does not respond actively. I mean, if it has to really develop, it has to learn language, and then it really starts developing, and then once it graduates, the child starts building its own world. So it is, you have to, the parents really are patient for that particular cycle. So if you're building an idea or a project, you have to be patient if you believe and if you are seeing traction. If you're not seeing the traction in its minimum viable product, as I mentioned, if you're not seeing that the customers are liking your product, you are not seeing that customers are preferring your product over other products, then maybe you should look forward to revamping your idea or maybe thinking about other solutions.
Yeah.
But if you are seeing something and you believe that this is the idea that will help you in I mean that will probably change something in the world you really believe in, then you should have patience.
Yeah, I see sometimes people invest in their idea. Emotional investment is very high, so they are just not ready to leave it if it's not going fine. And if you are a student or entrepreneur, or you are just out of college, so it's sometimes not feasible. So what do you have to say for such student or such entrepreneur who are too much emotionally invested in their ideas?
I think when we start something, and as I said, self belief is necessary, but then you should know a point wherein belief is no more a reality. For example, if you're seeing that the startup is not gaining much traction, you are seeing it in idea, you have lived it, you have experienced it, and then also you do not want to move ahead of your idea, maybe that's what's stopping you. That's what's stopping you to think about the other ideas. So it is important to be emotionally involved till the time you see that your idea is becoming a reality. If you do not see your idea becoming a reality, maybe you are just overthinking and you are just trying luck over nothing. So emotional investment in a start in an idea is not good when when the idea is not working in itself. Or maybe if you see that maybe this is not the right time. For example, if you see the story of YouTube, I must say
Yeah,
YouTube wasn't launched at the perfect time. It took a lot of years actually to gain the traction it was looking forward to. But
yeah,
it's so new that but it's so the trends showed that yes, technology will play a great role. Internet would come and someday this market would boom. If you see that kind of, then you should have patience of that kind
yeah.
as well, because you will have to keep building with no revenue, and then you, if you can afford it, it's better. If you cannot, you can just do what the world needs right now,
Like in few
because
events,
timing
for
is very
example,
important.
I have seen in few events people pitching ideas related to AR VR, and everybody know
Yeah.
that this technology will come into action after 10 years, and it would take at least 15 years to be consumed by general people. So one should be patient about it, and should have confidence in
I think about Nihal. I think that the technology has already started. For example, I know of a startup who is using VR to display movies,
yeah,
particularly in the cinema halls. Like they'll give you VR glasses nowadays. So things are coming up, and if you have already started working in AR VR field, it's and you have substantial knowledge in the field, it's probably that you are going to build the next big product that the world would need in future.
yeah.
So it might take 10 years to reach an advanced version of it, but I think the nascent industry has already started experimenting on it.
So the end point that we just discussed, that when one should leave the idea, or and should stop, uh, should
Mhm.
should withdraw their emotional investment and everything out of it. So what's the role of the mentor at that stage?
The mentor, as if the startup has
Startup.
the startup already has an arrangement with a mentor, like has already
Yeah, yeah.
has a
That means,
mentor.
for example, if some startup initially they were doing good, and then
Okay.
all of a sudden they just lost their customers, and now they have to ramp up, but they are not willing to do it. And so what's the role of mentors at that stage?
So it depends upon the type of the mentor. See, as I mentioned that you said that the startup was doing well, but
Yeah,
suddenly uh, the startup fell short of the expectations of customers and decided to wind up the idea all at once, right? So in that case, if the mentor is generous and is look and knows that this idea would do good, it's just a matter of time that is not doing good, has not done well. As you might have seen that in this COVID-19, many of the startups have
yeah,
faced difficulties, and I believe some of them might have considered even quitting the startup and looking for jobs or something like that, maybe. So in that times, either the mentor can encourage the startup to keep heads up and keep working, and maybe bringing a little change that can again attract the customers and build long term relations. But in other terms, if the invest if the student entrepreneur of the startup has completely founder has completely lost interest in the idea and is no longer willing to work on the idea, he should probably might consider quitting
yeah,
the startup. Because if he's not invested, if he is invested pragmatically, then the product would never reach its highest potential, I believe. So
yeah.
that is what I would say in this scenario.
And for one's advice for students, that should one go for what we say corporate or industrial experience first, or should they just start in the beginning, or means what should be
Okay.
the means everybody I know have at least one or two ideas in their mind, and I believe that people should once in a life try on implementing one of the other ideas. So what should be the strategy for someone should they mm, first go for an industrial experience, or should start right after they have the ideas, or
I mean, it really depends upon the student entrepreneur. So look, if the student entrepreneur has a good business family background, has not much expectance, I mean, has the risk capacity to take the idea forward or experiment it for a year or so, then can go ahead. If the founder does not, the startup entrepreneur does not feel like they have a strong idea, they have not been able to test it during college time, and they think that that it is not the best time yet to launch my particular idea, I may have to work a little more on it, then the student entrepreneur can think of doing the corporate job or take the experience as well, work on the idea side by side, and then probably once the entrepreneur is sure of it, they can launch it. And thirdly, I believe that there are some entrepreneurial traits that you can have or you can practice if you really want to have build a startup. That is like taking risk capacity, having self belief, self confidence, improving your presentation skills, and building your network as much as possible. So these are a few of the traits that you should always look forward, even if you are in college, to build your overall personality. That would not even help, because there are entrepreneurs as well who work in a corporate, who bring new ideas, new projects in a corporate setup. Those are called entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs who do in their startup, who have their own idea.
okay.
So it really depends upon person to person how they want to take.
So let's take a case of somebody who is interested in the startup ecosystem, and
Hmm.
does not want to start with an idea. So how can he or she move ahead? Like for example, you are not having a startup or startup idea, but you are in the ecosystem. So for a career like you, how much how someone should move ahead
So
on that?
I had a project. I had 2 3 projects that
Yeah,
I have done. but I figured out that this is not the best version of my idea, so I did not carry it forward. And why I entered startup ecosystem is because entrepreneurship drives me, because I want to become an entrepreneur someday in my life. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
So if you can either work in startup to experience a startup life cycle, and if you already belong to a business family and you have that business experience, how to deal, how to negotiate, how to bring clients to your business, and in those terms, if you already have experience, you can probably think of starting off right away. It's particularly about the right time, the right confidence you have. It is all. And if you want to really experience it, is not about entering into a startup ecosystem. You can enter through various modes. You can start attending startup events, you can be a part of startup community like Head Start,
Yeah.
and you can either join startup incubators, or you can just have a startup maybe, or you can work in a startup. So there are a lot of ways to connect.
Yeah. So with that, what is the role of networking for an entrepreneur or for a corporate in general?
So networking plays an essential role. Since we are humans, we need to socialize and to grow our, I mean, to express our ideas and stuff. You need different kind of networks. So for startup, you need networks wherein you can find the right vendors, you can find right customers, you can find people who can advise you, people who can help you in your journey. Because I mean, having a startup is a lot of thing to do. You have to be awake like 24/7 to build that particular idea. It's
As we were talking about the importance of networking for someone who is into entrepreneurship or in corporate in
Mhm.
general. So please explain about it.
Okay. So can you hear me, Nihal?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I was saying that network is very important. So see, you have to, you when you are in a network, you see people hustling around you as you are working as, because in while building a startup, it takes a lot of effort and investment to build, to have it becoming. So you really want those people around you who can help you, who can mentor you, who can be your vendors, who can be your sellers, and you want to have people around you so that they can help you in making your startup big. So when you see the people, the startups that are around you doing the same things as you are doing, it gives you motivation and you look forward to it. You also put your 100% on a day-to-day basis. You look for innovating your product because you see that the competition is, I mean, have you noticed that if you are doing a project and the other person is doing the same project but is doing in a different way, you feel competitive, and you think what better I can do. And that brings to us to USP. What's unique is your proposition, right? So that is how the networks help you improve on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. So on a closing note, what should be the your one advice for students who are into entrepreneurship, and what should be their mindset? How they should approach their or present their ideas? How they should attend events and all such.
See, so my advice on would be that if you have an idea, you should always experiment it, because until you experiment it, you never know if it was a success or was it a failure. Because if it was a success, you just missed an opportunity, and if it was failure, you knew why it was a failure, and so you would bring up a better idea. So if you have an idea, you should work on it, because there's something that's driving you. Maybe it will bring a personality change in you, it will bring you a lot of new network, it will give you new inspiration, and maybe in the making of this process of building this idea, you get another billion-dollar idea. So you never know. You should always let your curiosity drive you.
Okay. So I think I have got all my questions answered. So,
Okay.
is that there something you want to add? And
No, I believe it was a good interactive session and it is a good initiative by you.
yeah, thank
So I believe the students get help from what we discussed, and maybe there are more startups in India, and so that as it is said that we can go local, so everything is available in the market.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.